Hi, this is Eric Martin with BoardGameGeek. I'm here with Mike Young from Plan B Games, designer Emerson Matsuuchi, looking at Century: A New World, the third title in the Century trilogy, out now.
Yes.
Sorta, kinda.
Well,
it's out here at Origins.
Sold out here at Origins.
Debut at UK Games Expo.
Well, technically, but our domestic debut
Yes.
here in the U.S.
Anyway, so Century: A New World is a standalone game, but it also can be combined with the other titles in the series.
Right. So a credit to Emerson's genius is that throughout the design process of Century 1, 2, and 3 was the element to do mixable games.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And with that, you're getting a little extra value out of your box. All of a sudden, with 3 games, I have 7 rule sets in total and 7 different ways to play, each being a little quirky and different than each other, but all a very satisfying Century experience.
Okay, so what is the base game experience that we get out of the box?
Right,
if
so
we have only this title.
So we've seen hand building before in Spice Road, and we've seen point-to-point pickup and delivery with Eastern Wonders. This is Emerson's take on worker placement and displacement.
Yes.
Okay.
So in this game, each player is going to have a series of incredibly tiny workers that you place on the board. Each of the spots on the board, so it has a lot of the worker placement tropes where each of the locations are where you place your workers. The numbers that's inside of the meeple icon will tell you how many workers you need if there are no other players' workers that are in that location.
Okay.
So for instance, if you wanted to take 3 yellow cubes, you would place these 2 workers in that location, and then you would be able to take 3 yellow cubes.
Okay.
So on your turn, you can place workers on these locations. If a location has workers of an opponent, so let's say, for instance, Mike had a worker here on a previous turn, I can go to that location. I would then simply put 1 more worker than the number of workers that an opponent has.
Okay.
But then this worker actually goes back to his supplies so that he can then use it on a subsequent turn.
Okay. And that is the only way to get workers back, because there has to be another way.
Yeah, there's
Otherwise, they just die out there.
Yes. So the second action that you can take, in fact, there's only 2 actions you can take. The second action is to rest, where you would be taking all your workers back into your supply.
Okay.
Now, there are also ways to get additional workers that you have in your reserve over here.
Okay.
So there's a couple of locations where up here that will allow you to both score points, score bonus points, and also to be able to get additional workers and other benefits. So
That on camera here. Okay.
So if you were to go to this spot, there's actually a couple options here. You can go to the spot to take a tile, and this is an endgame scoring tile, and it's looking for this symbol on the cards that you're able to achieve. So each one of these cards, so here we have the matching symbol here, you would get an additional 2 points for every one of these that you have.
Okay.
This right here will say for each pair of these symbols, you would get 3 points. For each set of this and this symbol, you would get 3 points, and so forth.
Okay.
Some of them just give you straight up victory points, like these. This will give you 1 point for every 2 workers that you have.
Okay. So you want to unlock
Yes.
more workers.
But when you take one of these, it takes up one of the 3 spots that you have on your board.
Okay.
So it'll take up one of these 3 slots. Once you have a slot full, it can no longer be moved or changed. So you can only take 3, and once you've taken your 3rd one, it is locked in. You can no longer take these. So when you go to these locations, say right here, there's a couple options. You can take the tile, or you can pay the cost here to take the card. So in this case, I would return 3 yellow cubes and a brown cube to take this card, and you would slide it underneath your player board, and you would get a special ability.
Okay.
Or you can actually take both. If you can pay the cost, you may also then take this.
And if you don't want it, it just sits there.
It just sits there. That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Good to hear.
So I'll explain some of the benefits up here. So if you send a worker to a location with that icon, and you just simply look for that icon on the board,
Takes
you
one
pay,
less person.
Yeah, 1 less worker.
That's right. Very clear icons.
Yes.
So, yeah.
If you go to a location with this corn icon, you get an additional yellow cube when you go there. This will allow you to take one of these exploration tiles. Some of the exploration tiles, such as this,
Some immediate benefits, right?
yeah, will give you immediate benefits.
And open a space that people can play in the
That's
future.
correct. That's
Okay.
correct. It'll open a space. And then there are some that will give you
In-game bonus points.
end-game bonus points, or or additional icons that will be used to fulfill these bonus points.
Okay.
Alright. The game's going to end once one player completes their 8th card, and then we finish out the round. And then the player who has the most points, by counting up the points on the cards themselves, your bonuses, as well as any non-yellow cubes in your supply, and you just tally that up. The most points wins, and it's very consistent with the other Century games.
Okay. And then combining the games together, how does that work? I don't know if you do a short overview of. I mean, you don't have to do all 7, but just
Sure.
what's the idea of how to combine them together? Like,
Sure.
how are you linking this?
Okay,
the
so
hand building with the
Okay.
worker placement.
So I'll start with Century 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
So
we could just do that as an example and just
sure.
leave it at that. So.
We then flip
So
these
we have
tiles.
alternative boards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Each of these boards are double-sided, and depending on which setup that you want, it'll tell you which of these boards to use. So for instance, this was a C1 side. So
Right.
if you want to play the base game, you put everything on the one side.
ones. Yep.
And then you just look at the instructions on which ones to flip over in order to get to the combined games. So
Okay.
if you wanted to play it with Century Spice Road, these areas would open up over here. Okay. You would still have the worker placement, so the worker placement mechanic stays the same, but now you're able to claim these cards. So you would have spots that will allow you to claim cards that are in this particular row here.
Okay.
Okay. When you take one of the Century cards, you would actually then place it underneath your board, and then you would be able to place workers on this what we call the trade row, or the trade route. I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's a trade route. The little twist in here is that you can use any of your cards, but when you place your workers, you have to place an additional worker for each one you skipped over. So there is a notion of sequence there.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say if you have 4 cards and you want to use a card at the very end without activating any of the cards before that, you would have to place 4 workers there.
Right.
So, and there are abilities. For instance, this one will allow you to swap any 2 cards and gain a yellow
Adjust your
cube.
line.
Correct. There's also another spot. Oh,
Here's
I'm
one
sorry.
that allows you to
Bonuses when you get
unlock
4
bonuses.
cards here.
Oh, actually, no. I'm sorry. This is actually when you combine it with Century. It's in one of the other tiles. So I'm sorry. This is actually when you combine it with 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Then
Yes.
this
We have
actually
one of the
opens up.
boards in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the backside of one of the other boards.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it fuses some of the best elements of each, put into a new and slightly different, unique experience. I
Right.
think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for the overview.
Thank you for
Century
having
New
us.
World. I know sold out here at Origins.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Points right here?
had some problems with lines on Thursday, but you should see this in retailers middle of July.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Mike.
thank you, guys.
Emerson. A review of Century New World from Plan B Games.